Hey. This is another inspiration video. I just did one a few minutes ago if you just so happen to watch it. So, someone just said to me a little while ago, I knew you were going to move up with all them degrees you got. But you know what? It's not even about having degrees, it's just about thinking, it's just about using your mind and being encouraged, being confident, and to keep going even when things don't seem to work out, because everything is working out exactly the way that it's supposed to, even if we don't understand at the time why it's not working out the way that we want it to. Now, everything happens for a reason, and a lot of times we need to learn lessons, um, or it's a test sometimes to see whether or not we can get through it, and whether or not we'll be able to work it out. Like, just say for example, um, if you need a business loan or you want a business loan, right? But you got a personal loan and you weren't able to manage it, then you were supposed to learn how to manage, those funds better, so that when you do get the business loan, you won't just blow the money, right? It could be something as simple as that. And that's just one example. That was just the first thing I could think of because I was watching a video about um, Anthony O'Neill. He had a lady on who was 60 years old and had $30,000 in debt and no savings. Um, and so I was inspired by her story. Well, I shouldn't say that I was inspired by her story. He basically told her to do, I didn't even realize it was a method, like it had a name, but people have been doing it for years. You basically start out by paying off your highest debts first, and then you pay like the minimum balance, or some people pay the smaller ones off first. Like, so say if you have a loan or a credit card that's like $200, you just pay that off immediately if at all possible. And then if you have one that's say $2,000, then you pay the minimum balance. And then once you pay the smaller ones off, then you start making larger payments toward that $2,000. So say you paid off the $200 one, so now you have $200 you can put toward the bigger one. So you pay that $200 toward the $2,000, and if you could add more to it, you add more to it until you pay it off. That's the basic concept of it. But again, some people do the opposite, where they put a larger amount of money on the bigger one, and then they pay the minimum balance on the smaller ones, since it won't take as long to pay those off. Um, and I think they call it the snowball method or something like that. So I was inspired by that advice they gave her for her being 60, not having any savings, and being in debt. She did some of the she initially said she was $60,000 in debt because she has a car. She co-signed for a car for her granddaughter, and her granddaughter doesn't always pay uh, her car note on time. I'm driving slow, and because I'm driving past a guy who has two dogs, and one of the dogs is not on a leash. So anyway, yeah, that's basically, you're gonna keep paying, and that's all you're gonna focus on. Um, until you get out of the situation that you're in. And if you just focus on that, like, so if you just focus on what are your basic needs, how much realistically does it take for you to uh, live per month. So let's say your rent is $1,000, and you maybe spend $400 a month on food, and maybe say another $300 on gas, depending on how far your commute is. And then let's say the rest of your like cell phone, your other utilities, maybe say that's another $3,000. So let's say your monthly expenses are $2,000 a month and you make $3,000 a month. So realistically, you have $1,000 a month that you can pay toward paying down your debt. So let's say that your debt is um, um, uh, $12,000. In a year, you can pay down your debt. And that's just the reality of it. Um, but it's when we buy things that we don't need just because we want them or just because we saw somebody else with them. Or we even convince ourselves that we need them when we don't really need them and it's just a want. That's when we start to get in trouble, right? Now, granted, I do know that some things are a need, but a lot of things are not a need, and we just convince ourselves that we need them because we really just want them. So, um, be inspired, be encouraged. If it's a business, if it's traveling, I still keep meeting people who have never been on an airplane. Um, there are still people who have never left within, say a 20-mile radius of where they were born and raised. Get out, explore. There's more to life than the 20 blocks of where you were born and raised, right? Visit other states. Um, I was once dating someone who called his mom his best friend, but he had never been to visit her, and she had been living out the state for at least 10 years. How is that your best friend? And you've never been to see her. You never got on a train, a bus, or anything to go see the lady that you call your best friend. That doesn't make sense to me, right? So get out. See something other than, and stop saying that you can't afford it. Because if you can afford to go to the liquor store and get by cigarettes and weed and go shopping, you can afford to travel. Right? If you can eat out all the time, you can afford to travel. Stop eating out for a month and see how much you save. Right? I know it's maybe not as easy to stop smoking, but if you can stop smoking, see how much money you save. Cigarettes and weed. If you stop drinking, see how much you save. Find healthy ways. Exercise. Go for a walk. Do some yoga. Do some Pilates. Go to the gym. Find healthy ways to release the frustration that you have with life. And then travel. See something else. Do something else. Do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. Read a book. Right? A lot of people have gotten away from that. And a lot of people just want to post pictures of themselves on social media, which I do the same thing. But everything is for a purpose. So if you have no purpose, then it's just for attention. It's just for validation. And this is not me knocking anybody, picking on anybody. This is the truth. So I was having a conversation with somebody earlier, and the person said that women can't handle rejection. And I introduced the fact that there are some men who can't handle rejection either. And he said, oh, well, I'm of a certain age. So he's like in his 60s. So men in my generation aren't like that. I'm not really sure why you think that. Right? Maybe you're not like that. He said his son was not like that. And the other men in his circle are not like that. But there are men of his age range who are like that. They cannot handle rejection. They call women names. They get upset when they're rejected. And they otherwise cannot handle rejection. And he got offended. And then he tried to flip it because when you introduce the reality, when you tell the truth, people say, oh, that's not true. I even introduced a study. And he said, oh, that's just made up. How is this study about men not being able to handle rejection made up. You just don't want to accept the truth, which doesn't make sense. And we're saying that men who can't handle rejection, and including women who can't handle rejection, that is a sign of immaturity, regardless of the age, right? The person could be 70, 80 years old. It doesn't matter. It's a sign of immaturity. Their mindset is immature. Something happened when in their childhood that is not allowing them to handle rejection well. And that's just period, point blank, end of discussion. Anyone who has studied psychology to any extent will knows that, right? This is not something that somebody's made up. So now the way that he's responding to what I'm saying, and another sister, a couple of sisters in the same post were backing me up. So now he's really getting defensive. And he doesn't realize that what we're saying, he's exhibiting. If you can't accept the truth, a fact, as presented to you, that is a sign of immaturity. Whether you like the fact or not is irrelevant. A fact is a fact. A fact can be proven. And even when given proof, he still rejected it. He still denied it. And he still became defensive. Then he starts to throw insults. Oh, you must be this and you must be that. That's the same thing we said. Men who can't handle rejection. So in essence, because we didn't accept his statement that women can't handle rejection, he feels rejected. And so now he's behaving immaturely. And he does not realize that's what he's doing. But he claims that men in his age range don't do that. You see how that works? He denied it. But anyway, I kind of went off the topic, but it's okay because certain things just need to come out sometimes. And it brings it full circle for me anyway. So I hope that this was helpful. As always, I love y'all. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Mwah.